little...
Yes, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Didn't surprise
well,
me.
He was when I said to him, why have you brought the Swamis in the school, because a lot of staff are upset about it, he said, well, I'm in search of the truth. I want to know the truth about life, about deity, and so on and so on. And he said, I'm trying to find out as many different highly well-read people as possible, and that means looking into all different religions. And he said, I think that some of these people have got things to say to the school and to the staff which would be very good. And so as I say, he was wanting to be detached from that a little bit. But on the other hand, he was not beyond weighing in and putting things straight if he felt things were going wrong.
Yeah, I guess it's always a matter of finding the right balance, where obviously the staff felt kind of empowered and that they had the flexibility to do what they felt was necessary, and yet they certainly had a very clear understanding as to what needed to happen at the higher level.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so, as you say, there was a big gulf between what the staff saw and felt they had to respond to, and what the students saw.
Do you feel that that's important in running a school, because there seems to be such a push towards transparency these days?
I think that, going back to what we've spoken about quite a bit, Steve, about relationships, I think the relationships between people are extremely important. And I think that where JC was clever, he didn't want all the houses to be the same. He didn't want everything to be absolutely the same. He felt that was, as we were talking about, constricting creativity. And he wanted different types of people. I mean, you couldn't have had two more different people than Bertie Boaz and myself. There was Bertie down in Delaware, doing his bit down there, and I was up in Belvedere, and we were like chalk and cheese. Well, JC liked that. He felt that he was covering a greater span of needs from the students and parents by having different types of houses than having everything all exactly the same.
Interesting.
So to a certain extent, I think that there is. I often wonder whether some of the other staff went seeking more advice, or whether they just ploughed on in their own way. And I do wonder whether that may be one of the reasons why things in my book have come a little bit unstuck. Because if staff didn't actually bother to go delving into the whys and wherefores and looking at the actual 7 guiding principles, if they didn't do that, then they were really working blind, and being pulled up by the bootstraps occasionally, either by a headmaster, housemaster, or the director.
Yeah, that's quite intriguing, because obviously being in Alpena with Group Captain Watts, we had a very different kind of regime within the house as, say, the opposite, which would have been perhaps Delaware. And as a student, I always said, gosh, I wonder if JC knows, how totally, slack they are down in Delaware, what they get away with, and so forth. So there's a bit of kind of envy and so forth. But I think the house rivalry actually played a very important part in the overall sense of community, that we weren't all really kind of cookie-cutter products. To your earlier point, Steve, about transparency, which, it's kind of interesting if you kind of interpret what Will's saying is just kind of a bit of a Machiavellian kind of strategy behind the scenes, kind of what's going on, and yet, some tremendous good that obviously comes out of that in terms of spirit and uniformity of purpose and so forth. But obviously, lot more complex than a student would recognize or perhaps need to understand, what's going on behind the scenes.
I think that's true. On the other hand, I felt that it was quite important. Most of you guys were going to leave school and go off and do very important jobs. A lot of them into family businesses or business operations that were employing large numbers of people. And I felt that that was a big responsibility. And to know how to manage people, how to care for them, and let them know that you care for them was quite an important part of that management process. And the best way for students to learn about that was to actually be doing it themselves at school, where if they made mistakes, we could correct them. On the other hand, if they made mistakes when they got out into the big wide world, they could affect the lives of hundreds of people.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying. And so, saying to students, explain to students how the 7 guiding principles work. I mean, one of the things that I used to emphasize tremendously was the second one, which was the care of the individual. That the whole system had to care for the individual. And there were a number of times when students were criticizing me and saying, "You're checking up on us, and everything else," And I used to check up on students a lot, and then they'd say to me, "But you don't trust us." I said, "Oh, well, hang on a minute. Trust is something which is very hard to gain, and I need to know that you are straight and honest and that you're doing things correctly. And as that trust builds, then I will do less checking. If I do check and I find that you've misused, misappropriated the trust we have in you, then you're going to fall from a very long way." Now, if you really care for the individuals, you've got to learn to look after the people around you and help them by lifting them up, not